Bhushan Sharma from CRISIL. Welcome to our podcast on the packaged food and dairy industry. This podcast is a part of the HSBC SME Knowledge Series, where CRISIL is a knowledge partner. Today we will discuss two sectors that are providing a glimmer of hope amidst the gloom and doom brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Both packaged food as well as dairy sectors are part of the essential product category. I'll begin by elaborating on the packaged food industry and then move on to the dynamics in the dairy sector. The packaged food industry in India has been seeing a robust revenue growth of around 14% over the last 5 years. The industry broadly comprises of biscuits and bakery products, snacks, chocolates, and ready-to-eat and ready-to-cook segments, also known as RTE/RTC. While most sectors in India are expected to show a decline in revenue growth this year, the packaged food sector is amongst the few to show improvement as compared to the previous year. If we look at the scenario in fiscal 2020, that is last year, we see that segments with high rural penetration, such as biscuits, traditional Indian snacks, saw lower than average industry growth, whereas urban dominated segments like chocolates, cakes, and RTE/RTC saw above industry average growth. This can be attributed to two things. One is lower rural growth momentum last year owing to a delayed monsoon, and the second is segments which saw higher than average growth are largely underpenetrated in India. In fact, the RTE and RTC segment has been growing close to 20% over the last couple of years due to innovation in product offering which cater to regional preferences as well as increasing women participation in workforce. Now, if we look at how COVID-19 has impacted the packaged food sector, there are three key aspects that are influencing demand. First, the rural economy is expected to perform better than its urban counterparts this year, with agriculture being exempt from the lockdown and expectation of a normal monsoon. Second, with restaurants, cafes and street food stalls being shut over the last couple of months, a lot of consumption has moved into homes. And last, but an extremely important aspect is that while large organizations have been able to smoothen their supply chain issues over April and May this year, SMEs have found it more challenging, and hence large players have been able to gain shelf space and consequently market share amidst the lockdown. These three aspects are expected to impact the various sub-segments differently. While the overall sector is expected to clock growth of around 10% this year, lower than the last 5-year CAGR of around 14%, segments such as biscuits have been the primary beneficiary with consumption moving home. This segment is followed closely by chocolates. However, segments with high SME share, such as Indian snacks and chips, are worse off than last year, while RTE/RTC, which comprises of sauces and spreads as well as instant noodles and breakfast mix, are doing even better than last year. In the coming months, however, we expect SMEs to resolve the supply chain issues and catch up on the growing trend of in-home consumption. Amidst the mixed bag of growth for the various sub-segments, what will definitely provide respite to both large organizations as well as SMEs is the lower raw material price expectation for commodities such as wheat and palm oil. This will definitely provide a cushion to players' margins, which are expected to improve by around 100 basis points at an industry level this year. However, we expect the improvement in margins to be around 20 to 40 basis points for the small and medium enterprises. Now let us move to a sector which has managed the supply chain disruptions due to the COVID-19 pandemic right from the outset. Yes, we're talking about the dairy sector, which is valued at around 6 lakh crore rupees as of fiscal 2020. India has the highest cow and buffalo population in the world, and despite much lower yields as compared to the developed world, it has the highest milk production globally, making the country self-sufficient in meeting its consumption needs. The dairy sector can be divided into three parts, with milk contributing around 64% of the revenue, followed by traditional value-added products like butter, ghee and curd at around 33% share, and emerging value-added products like cheese, whey, ice cream having a small but fast-growing share of around 3%. The overall dairy sector has been growing at around 10% in revenue terms over the last 5 years. Milk and traditional value-added products have been clocking around 10% growth, while emerging value-added products have been growing at around 18%. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a varying impact on the sub-segments within dairy industry. Segments like milk and traditional value-added products like ghee, butter and curd, which have been available throughout the lockdown, have managed to show marginal growth and are expected to grow by 2 to 4% in fiscal 2021. However, a segment like ice cream, which comes under emerging value-added products, has borne the brunt of the lockdown. Around 40% of ice cream sales take place in the peak summer months of April, May and June. With the lockdown in place, a large part of these sales have been lost. Another aspect at play is industrial demand. Segments like whey protein sold at gyms, Skim milk powder sold through hotels, and Khoa sold to sweet shops have also taken a significant beating and are expected to degrow by over 15% this year. Overall, the dairy industry is expected to be significantly short of its 5-year growth trajectory and is expected to grow by around 2 to 3% this year. However, despite the hiccups on the sales front, what is expected to provide solace to dairy manufacturers is the lower milk procurement price. In the previous year, we had a prolonged summer and fodder availability for cattle was limited, leading to a reduction in milk production by around 3 to 4%. This led to an increase in milk procurement prices. However, with a bumper Rabi harvest this year and ample fodder availability, we are expecting procurement prices to be lower by around 2 to 3%. This is expected to provide a cushion to margins of players amidst the demand slowdown. Margins are expected to contract by around 20 to 40 basis points for the sector this year. Having spoken about the key trends, demand dynamics, as well as profitability for the two sectors, let us conclude this podcast by looking at the opportunities amidst this lockdown. For both the sectors, we are seeing a focus by manufacturers on directly reaching retailers as well as customers. We believe tying up with last mile delivery aggregators will be a step in the right direction given the growing preference of urban customers on contactless purchases. Manufacturers can also focus on product packaging that reduces customer anxiety, keeping in mind the cautiousness amongst buyers related to the COVID-19 spread. Also, given that rural markets are expected to perform better this year, launching low-value SKUs with regional preferences in mind can aid growth. That brings me to an end of this podcast on two sectors that are providing hope amidst the pandemic gloom. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for listening patiently. Keep staying safe.